So I saw Rampage and I thought it was very good. Now, the main standard you've got to judge it by is the spectacle, is the citywide destruction. It is three giant animals rampaging through a city. I hope I didn't spoil it for anyone. It is a creature feature, and I'm not talking about Dwayne Johnson. Get it? Because he's big. Now, of the three animals, George the gorilla, I loved him as a character. I'll get to that in a second. His action scenes, probably the least impressive. They were still quite good. I loved how he reminded you a lot of the Hulk, the way he would just plow through things like glass without it even phasing him. But I feel like I've seen it better in the Avengers. The Hulk just had this super speed factor that was really cool. And even Planet of the Apes movies, I'd seen better action with a giant gorilla rampaging through a city. But the wolf, I've never seen anything like it before. At one point, he leaps onto a helicopter, chews the helicopter a bit, and then springboards off the helicopter, shoves it into a mountain, and then leaps back to safety. Just a great action sequence. I haven't seen anything like it. The wolf's on the ground at one point, leaps up, grabs a helicopter as if it's grabbing a bird, and it's one of those things in the sea that leaps up, grabs the bird, and then brings it back down, just chews it on the ground. So the wolf was fantastic. The crocodile, I don't think it was an alligator, I think it was a crocodile. The crocodile was great, just the moment we first witness it, and it just comes out of the sea and then bellows. It's that kaiju genre. It really felt like this wasn't just a really big animal. No, this was a creature of the apocalypse. This was the Kraken. We were on the edge of the apocalypse, and The Rock had to step in and save the day, which he did in magnificent fashion, as is to be expected. I'll get to The Rock in a sec, but last thing about these three animals, the fact that we'll see them climbing up the building, and we'll see the gorilla, how he's nimbly swinging his way up, the wolf's going up his way, and then we see the gator just burrowing his way into the building. I loved how they could have half-assed it, and I know they were going to have three animals because of the source material, but they could have had all the animals, their rampaging and their destruction, look kind of similar, and I think they could have totally gotten away with it, sold just as many tickets, got just as good reviews, because I don't think most critics are going to appreciate the subtle nuances of city destruction. But for me, I do. I thought the fact that they had three distinct animals, but more importantly, different styles that the animals were destroying the city, I thought it was great. And now let me talk about George for a second. Not since Maurice, that wise orangutan from Planet of the Apes, have I loved a primate more. The name was great. Curious George, George of the Jungle. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. His relationship with The Rock was so sweet. Now, I loved how, one, it gave some stakes that in the midst of all this carnage towards the end of the movie, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried because I didn't think that they were gonna kill him off, but I thought there was a chance they might, and I didn't want them to. I really did grow attached to him particularly, but this relationship that he had with The Rock, these two misunderstood giants, and not only did it give some stakes, but it had a better message than I think a lot of other action movies, annihilation porn movies have, where you have The Rock, who is really cool. And I think he is a movie star. He is a role model, maybe not for older people, but for young kids especially. So having a role model who's really strong and very masculine, but also loves animals and is very compassionate, I think it's a really nice message. And that brings you to the villain that a lot of people criticized. Said the villain was kind of weak and bland, but I think that was the point, that he was very ambitious and had a lot of power, but didn't really care about animals. He experimented on them, and he was also, when it came down to it, very weak and ineffectual and emasculated by his sister. So I thought it was nice how usually, rather than holding up these business guys and these Wall Street guys and glorifying them like Wolf of Wall Street, you had them kind of being weak and ineffectual, while the person who had a normal job that didn't get a lot of glory and credit, working with animals, and had this compassion, he was the hero, which I thought was cool. And I forgot to mention, George is albino, so it reminds you of all those edgy Harambe memes, so that's just another plus. Now back to the villains. It's a brother-sister duo, and Malin Åkerman plays the sister. Now, a lot of people don't think she's the greatest actress. They think she's kind of stiff and bland. I don't mind her as much, and I think this is the best role for her. She's playing the icy, ruthless businesswoman. Reminds me a lot of her character off Billions, and I think she does this role pretty well. And I just have a bias. Watchmen is one of my favorite movies, and we had Malin Åkerman, and then the comedian from Watchmen was also, he had an okay role, but it was just really nice to see this Watchmen reunion. I liked it a lot. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is the actor's name. He reminds me a lot of John Hamm. After he ages a little bit, gets a little more years on his face. Reminds me a lot of George Clooney as well, but Clooney, a little more of a pretty boy. He reminds me of Clooney if he lived a bit more wild, a bit of a tougher life, put a little more character on the face. But he's really cool as a silver fox, just big smile. And then PJ Bren is, I wish he got more stuff. I think he's great. He was on the TV show The Game. He was really, really funny as this sleazy sports agent, and then he was Rugrat in Wolf of Wall Street. So I think he's really funny. I wish he got more stuff. And even in this movie, he was great at the beginning, I thought, but then he just dropped off the map. I don't know why he couldn't have been running around making jokes while the rampage is happening, but I don't know. I wish he was in it more, to be honest. And I just realized I said PJ Bren. It's PJ Byrne. I love the guy. Not enough, apparently, to not screw up his name in my review, but nonetheless, I am making the correction. And then Jack Quaid. Yes, he's related. He had a really small role, but I like him a lot. I saw him in Tragedy Girls. He had a bigger role in that. Really underrated movie that came out recently. So he was really good. And then the person who did the motion capture, very funny. If you look up who did the motion capture for George, the last guy you would expect, very tall, very elegant looking, very British looking, very thin. So not who you expect at all. I don't know a lot about motion capture, but I guess the person who's doing it doesn't really have to match up too much with what they're animating. And then I just remembered a really cool plane design, actually. A minor detail, but a really nice touch. It had that triangle design, but was just wafer thin. Looked really cool, really futuristic. Now, I do want to talk about spoilers. It's not much of a spoiler, it was in the trailers, but I do want to talk about spoilers, so stop watching if you don't want anything spoiled. Now I have to talk about the wolf flying, because it was awesome. It was awesome how it looked like a flying squirrel. The Rock saying, of course the wolf would fly. Now, I didn't see that in the trailer. I just went in blind, so I thought it was hilarious. I think if I saw it in the trailer, maybe I would have a different reaction, but I thought it was a really funny line, and like I say, it had those campy, over-the-top moments like Sharknado, like Hurricane Heist, when there's that classic cliche where you have a monster movie and it turns out, the real monsters are us. But they drove home the point where when she feeds the villain to the gorilla, she says, I'm feeding the monster to the gorilla. And it's corny and it's cheesy, but I think in a movie like this, it was perfect. So that would be my other major positive of why I like this so much, beyond just the really cool spectacle and action. I liked how I think they balanced having these campy, cheesy, corny, fun lines with also a really nice, touching love story at the center. And no, I'm not talking about The Rock and Naomie Harris, who I guess probably the biggest complaint would be she was pretty underutilized, because I just realized when I was running through the different actors, I didn't think of her at all. So she was kind of a bit of an afterthought. They tried to flesh her story out a bit, but I don't really think it quite worked. So she probably, I wouldn't say cut her. I'd say just give her more, because she's a great actress. They had some good talent here. So probably that'd be the one complaint, that they didn't flesh out her. And then some other characters, like I say, that PJ Byrne I liked a lot. He dropped off, so they could have done that better.